Hello, 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 and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jameelah, and I'm a master manifester, and I'm sure you are too. The name of this channel is Manifesting Magic, the Practical Way. I almost went on autopilot, right? I really like that new name, Manifesting Magic, the Practical Way, right? Because it's always a little bit of both. A little bit of magic, a little bit of practicality. A little bit of magic, a little bit of practicality. Nonetheless, today I'm talking about intuition. Intuition. Okay. So if you've been around women, you've been around women all your life, you've been in environments where women talk about intuition like it is chewing gum, like they use it for everything, like that kind of stuff. And they're like, oh, I thought about that, but something told me. And you're just thinking like, how much of that is other emotions at play? And then how much of that is that little blink of an eye feeling that people get when something seems off, right? So I was thinking about, okay, Malcolm Gladwell has a book, and I forget the name of it, but I'm going to look it up. And he talks about how intuition that happens in a blink of an eye can be just as effective as months of rational consideration. And so I was like, dang, that is so true. Because, okay, I was mentioning last time, I was on the last position that I was working, and it had been 7 months, and it was just chaos. I'll be honest with you. The place was complete chaos. And I'm always like, law of attraction is always at work. That means that I had to have a really deep opening for that much of chaos from that position to come into my space. And I was more bothered by that, by allowing that into my space, more than I was with the fact that it was chaotic. Because I feel like they were going to work and handle things the way they did. But me, I was just harping on, how did I attract such, a nonsense environment? Like, I don't feel turmoil on the inside. Why is this, right? So sometimes I feel like when things are leaving your life or you're evolving out of them, you'll get these moments where the last hurrah happens, right? Where you're just like, dude, I can't handle this, right? So during this time, something else happened. Somebody broke into my vehicle or something like that. They stole I don't know if y'all heard, everybody's been stealing these catalytic converters on vehicles and stuff like that. So I had two of them on my truck. So they took both. And, I have insurance, whatever. But in a moment when it happened, I felt like I have too much out of whack. And I remember walking in the house immediately after I checked out the vehicle and saw that it had been stolen, because I don't have things stolen from me that often. And it was happening consistently. It was even money coming out of my bank account. And I'm like, where am I cheating myself? I'm cheating myself somewhere. I was like, because you don't get cheated by the world unless you're cheating yourself somewhere. You don't get lied on by the world unless you're lying to yourself about something. You don't. And I'm a firm believer in this. This has always been the truth for me. Very, very, very seldom have I had things happen that just happened and I was, oh, wrong place, wrong time. It's always connected to something that's happening on the inside of me, something that I was available for, right? So they came and I went inside, and I walked inside from looking at the vehicle. I immediately sat down at the computer and typed out my letter of resignation to the position. Now, I have no idea what I even wrote in the letter. And I know that I was not angry with them in any kind of way, because they were doing what they do. I mentioned several times that it was chaotic and, well, nobody did anything. And I was like, okay, well, this is just the culture of the environment. So you get 7 months and then I'm done. That's what they say. Most dating relationships, the most common time frames are 6 months, 2 years, 7 years. Interesting though. 6 months, 2 years, 7 years. I'm going to look that up and see why specifically is that the case. I know the 6 months. I had several 6-monthers all throughout my 30s. People, I'm just like, it was cool, but we know this is not where it's at, right? And either person it can be, right? 6 months, 2 years, 7 years, common. And so I give them that little time, that grace period that most people have. It only was 7 months because I was fighting the idea of quitting something. I don't like quitting things if I feel like I can conquer it, but it wasn't working out. So I come and I sat down and I just started writing the letter immediately. I don't know what I put in it. I don't even know what I said. I didn't even go back to look at it again. If you ask me to this day, I know I resigned. I don't really know what the whole reason was that I wrote in there, but I wrote it in a flash. It was intuition, and in a blink of an eye, I knew that that was over. I knew it was done. And so it's really weird when those kind of things happen. And I'm one of those people, I'm so, tapped into my emotions and how I'm feeling every day and what's happening. But I don't give them a lot of energy because my feelings and all that, they change so much. If Moody AF was a person, it would be me. Because I go in and out of these zones, and if you happen to be around, then you'd happen to be around. And when I say zones, it's nothing rude or aggressive to anybody else, but I go within often. If anything feels not right to me or I feel off about something, I go within always. And so during that time I was working in that position, I went within. I was working, but I was not connected to the environment anymore. And in that moment, that flash, it hit me like, you're done with this. And I wasn't even angry. I just typed, I sent it, and I was like, you got me till the end of the week. I'm 1 week notice. I apologize, but this is far beyond my wheelhouse at this moment. And she said, oh, I understand. And so it was a fine parting. It wasn't a negative parting in any sense of the word. But I think sometimes that it's very hard to know the difference between intuition and emotion, especially for women, because I was aggravated with that position a while before it actually came to a head. But a part of me was just like, oh, you're just being whiny. Oh, you're just being emotional. Oh, you're just being right. But there was another part of me that kicked in when all of the rationale wasn't available in the moment, right? So the rationale, because like when you're doing something that bothers you to your core, like something that bothers you or something that doesn't feel right all the way, you keep reassuring yourself and rationalizing why something is okay, why it's not that bad, why it's, you're just like, oh gosh, I'm all over the place. I must be crazy. Oh, why this, why that? And so this can be anywhere. This can be in relationships. This can be in the workplace. This can be going into a store to go shop. It's just anywhere you go, anything you do, dealing with your kids, walking into a room for the first time when you're meeting people that, you're networking with or something, anything like that, right? And you rationalize yourself a lot. And I think that's a good process because I feel like because intuition and emotions are so hard to separate that you have to spend some time and make sure that your feelings are not navigating in a rational mindset that's based on some trauma or some wall you put up that you cannot, that you don't have access to, right? So I've been looking on this phone. This is another little phone I have, but I've been looking on this phone and I was just thinking like, what is intuition, right? And so you hear people say sometimes, I was running. Okay. So you ever walk into a room and you just sit and you're just, okay, you're quiet. You're fine. And people are like, what's wrong? Is something wrong or whatever like that? You're just like, no. And you got a smile on your face. And then they say, I felt like something was off with you. And they were absolutely right. How many times has that happened, right? If I've had friends and I got to know them enough, I can easily walk into their space and say, what's wrong? Something doesn't feel right, right? And I have a friend now where we're not as close as we used to be, but whenever I'm around her, my intuition tells me she's deeply conflicted about something. I don't know what it is. I may never know what it is, but I know when she's not conflicted and how that feels to be in her space. And I know when she is conflicted and how that feels to be in her space. And so I think with women sometimes, especially when you're dealing with masculine entities or masculine ideals or masculine mindsets, especially in the workplace and those type of environments, you're always told that your emotions are not important. Your emotions should be, put away. And I think that's a good thing, right? My emotions has not served me in a lot of times when I could have been a lot more level-headed and a lot more even keel, right? And so the biggest difference I find with intuition and something that's really just your emotions getting the best of you is when you don't ask for it. Like, you ever do that? People offer you energy, you don't ask for it. So it's like, you have children, this happens, right? They offer you guilt. You just like, I just walked in the room. Wait. You just walked in to say, do y'all want something for dinner? And you walk in and go, wait, was happening? Woo. And then you find out some shenanigans were taking place. And you're just like, dude, I don't even know why I walked in the room at that time. I don't even know what I felt when I walked in the room. But I know when I walked in, it didn't feel like it always feels, right? So sometimes this happens in conversations with people or things you're mentioning. I know most recently I was having a conversation with someone about whether or not someone was lying to me about something that they had to do. I don't care if they were, but it was just a curious kind of, coincidence that the thing happened when it happened. And I was like, you think that was the truth? And they were just like, I don't really think it was. I was like, okay, that's no big deal. I don't know why they felt like they needed to lie. I don't feel like that. And then you just let it go and you move on with your life, right? And then you find out about a month later, you're just like, oh, they were lying about that. Why would they lie to me about that? I didn't even care, right? So that's what I mean by intuition. When you are laser focused on something specific, 9 times out of 10, that ain't intuition. You're too focused. You're putting too much time and energy towards it, and you're thinking too much about it. So whether or not intuition is telling you something is off or something is amiss, it didn't catch you in your unconscious moment. So what my biggest difference is when I talk about intuition, I talk about my emotions are, in this point of my life, is a very conscious process. Whenever I feel whatever I feel, I'm very conscious of it in any given moment, right? And I tell myself, you don't have time for that, right? I'm very conscious of it. So when I'm just fiddling and I'm just in the space of not calculating what's coming out of my mouth or not, organizing myself really specifically to a specific task or doing things a certain way or, being real regimented. I guess that sounds more structured. When I'm not doing that and I'm just going off the cuff and I'm like, blah, blah, blah. And then something hits me and I'm just like, dang, I wasn't even thinking about that. But why did that stand out? Why did the energy in the room shift when I mentioned? So you know what I mean? This happens, right? And so there's nothing wrong with feeling emotional about things and maybe letting the emotions take you too far down a rabbit hole. But I think when you're going down rabbit holes and when you're really seeking and you're really conscious, for me, that's not my intuition. For me, that's the hunter. That's the person that wants to prove something right or wrong, and any evidence towards any direction of that will possibly, confirm what I'm thinking. You know what people do on social media and online? They have an opinion about something. They don't agree with any of the opinions on the other side of it, but then they make sure that they only feed themselves with environments and ideas that match their opinions. This is all good when it comes to things that develop and enhance your life. But of course, it's not healthy when it's things that take away from or detract from your life. When you're laser focused and all you do is pay attention to that information and it's not really positive information. I think it's great when it's positive information and it can keep you above the water, because I think we're always trying to not drop down into some negative emotion at some point in the week, at some point in a month, at some point in a day, in a moment, whatever, right? So that's my takeaway. That's my leaving. I was just thinking today, because I feel like, man, I get wiser and wiser. Everybody does. But you can easily feel like there are boxes behind me. Let me push them. I feel like they're in my way. You can easily feel like you are figuring something out that you thought you knew or was trying to analyze. You can easily mistake that for, oh, I got this feeling, right? There's 2 different things, right? 2 different things. I always tell a story. It's in my book, Low Places, but it's kind of personal. But it's not that personal, right? I've never been a woman that was ever bothered with bothering with men, with being unfaithful and all that kind of stuff. It just wasn't something that I even gave energy or interest to. Never, ever did. And that's why I always tell people I could have been cheated on many, many times and I wouldn't have never known, because I didn't turn a blind eye to it. It just wasn't something that I witnessed in my household growing up. My dad wasn't that way. If he was very, very, very good at it. Don't know what he did. But I mean, and it wasn't something that was a common theme around my life and what was happening. So it's like, my first marriage, my marriage had a lot of that kind of junk in it, right? And I didn't know what to do with that. I was like, what is that? Why do people even do that? Like, what are you doing in a relationship if you're not going to just be with the person? Like, I couldn't understand it. And this is all afterwards, but beforehand, there was a part in my book, Low Places, I used this story from my life and put it in one of my books, where I was over that. I didn't think about that kind of stuff. And I was in the closet one day and I just happened to start fixing the clothes and start moving things out the way. Like there was, like we shared a closet. So like half of his stuff was over there, half of my stuff was over there. I started just pushing things to the side on the racks and that sort of thing. And then like I pushed one of the shirts and something hit me. So I pulled the shirt out of the closet. There was a phone in the top pocket of one of the shirts. Well, needless to say, the phone was, filled with all kinds of women and things like that. And I was just thinking like, that's interesting. In that moment, I lost all respect. Don't get me wrong, because I feel like an undisciplined man is a waste of everybody's time. They're no good for nothing. But I was just like, dang, this is very interesting because I made no attention and effort in that direction. Yet it just came right in my face. So my thing is, when you are being intuitive, when you're in that unconscious space, that's when and that's very candid, right? But I don't really care what people think about me anymore. I'm over that. So if it's something that matches the story, I'm going to share it about my life because I've not met a squeaky clean, perfect living person ever in my life. And I'm sure I never will. And it's all good. We all got stories. And so I think that when you start trying to look for things or trying to do things and trying to figure out and trying to rationalize, that's not intuition. That's your rational brain taking control and moving forward and saying, oh, let's, figure this out. Let's be a detective. Let's, what am I doing? And then after all that kind of stuff, give yourself some silence so you can let the thoughts breathe, right? But intuition is when you stumble upon the energy. You stumble upon the weird feeling. You stumble upon saying the wrong thing in a conversation that triggers something else. You stumble into it, right? So, intuition, unconscious. Emotional frameworks, that's a very conscious process. So if you're having trouble trying to separate the two, that is what it is for me, right? We use it with our children. We're like, something's not right, whatever, We use it with our family members. We use it all the time. We use it when you ever walk into a store or a place and the energy feels bad. You're just like, I don't want to be in here. I've done that so many times. And it's not like a weird and what is it called? Kind of irrational mindset. It's just like, oh no, not like the God warrior lady from Trading Spouses. I'm not, like they're devils, they're possessed. It's nothing like that. It's like you could walk in the next day in the same environment and then feel good and feel love and feel, appreciated. But it depends on what's happening in the space when you step into it. And sometimes your energy is so strong that you're so focused on something and you're so high that you don't even notice when you walk in places and what the energy is because you shift the energy and that just happens, right? So if you're wondering or if you're battling, I wouldn't say battling, if you are trying to figure out the difference, I think for women it's I wouldn't even say that because men are more they're more conscious and laser focused with a lot of logic and rationale in a way that women kind of use more of a feelings thing with that. So everything can be a little more balanced in the middle. But one of the biggest clinchers for me is, were you conscious? Were you paying attention when that feeling hit you? Or was it something that, just came up, right? It's like when you check that clock and it says 11:11, but it's really different if it's 11:10 and you sit there and wait until 11:11 shows up and you go, look, make a wish, right? But it's very different when you pick up your phone and be like, oh gosh, the day got away from me. What time is it? And you're looking like 11:11. That's interesting, right? That's the difference. Conscious, unconscious. Energy never, ever hides. Energy never, ever lies. Intuition or emotions. You have to start deciphering that, especially for my women. You have to start figuring out the difference so that you're not chasing your tail all the time to figure out whether somebody likes you or not, whether, you should take a job, whether or not you want to get a divorce, or whether or not you want to pull your children out of school. I did it. I homeschooled my daughters. I went there one day. I'm like, this place is not right anymore. I don't like this school. And then for whatever reason, one more thing happened right before I made the decision to pull my youngest out of the school. And I was just like, oh, I'm done. We're done. And so it's as quick as that. Intuition is like that. So any rationale, that's not intuition, that's your emotion. When that unconscious moment hits and you can't do anything but honor it, that is your intuition. And it shouldn't be emotional. It shouldn't be all over the place. It shouldn't be painful. It shouldn't be, you shouldn't be high and low. It should be subtle. It's like, huh. Anyway, I need to go and do, I'm going to walk today at the park. Maybe it won't rain. Maybe it will. Don't matter anyway. I wear locks. I get caught in the rain. And I'll do some weightlifting. I think that's going to be great. Anyway, shout out to my sister. She's extremely into fitness. And I always think about that back in the day growing up. You know, I never had anybody that accessed anything related to being fit, eating right and all that. And while it was very intense at different times, it's something that I've carried lifelong in my experience, right? And she watches my videos sometimes, so maybe she'll see this. It's yeah, your intuition is real. And I get anxiety when I ignore my intuition, so I'm one of those people. So you got to pay attention to yourself and keep your body healthy. Drink a lot of water. Stay fit. Smile a lot. Be beautiful. Look beautiful. Feel beautiful. Be beautiful. And the world will receive you everywhere you go. And beauty comes in 100 different shapes and sizes, arrays, and all that kind of stuff. Don't ever let anybody box you into what they think beauty is and all that. No, you're beautiful. I'm beautiful. You're beautiful. Be beautiful. Feel good. Feel great. And then you're already doing 100% better than half of the world walking around if you just like yourself. Anyway, I hope you all enjoying your day. Intuition.